Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and it's been quite some time since I was able to sit down and actually make a video, so here I am, hoping I'm not too rusty. And for those of you that were worried, the week of hell is now over, and I expect a relatively normal number of hours this week, which will leave me time to discuss some of the backlog of topics that I have. But for now, we're here to talk about Randy Pitchford and the copyright lawsuit filed against Pitchford, Gearbox, and Valve over the Duke Nukem 20th Anniversary World Tour video game. Now, I wanted to talk about this because people have raised some questions in this lawsuit as to why Valve is being included and what is the likelihood that the lawsuit will go anywhere. So let's do that. First, let's lay out the basic information we have surrounding the lawsuit, and then I'll flesh that out with some additional information and my opinion on what it all means. And as always, links to anything publicly available will be in the description down below. The court document itself is available through BloombergLaw.com, and yes, it is a lawsuit for copyright infringement being filed by Bobby Prince. Bobby Prince is the man that created the music for Doom, Doom 2, and Duke Nukem 3D back in the 90s. Now, in the lawsuit, it outlines that Gearbox used the music from the original Duke Nukem 3D in the Duke Nukem World Tour game that was released in 2016. He also states that Apogee Software, the original developers and publishers for the game, did not actually have the music created under their ownership, and they had obtained from Prince a limited right to the music in exchange for royalty fees that were $1 per unit, which, yeah, that's a pretty substantial amount. Prince had also obtained a copyright certificate of registration, SR 221-908, back in 1996, which was all 16 songs he had created for Duke Nukem 3D. In 2010, Gearbox acquired rights for the Duke Nukem games from Apogee, and neither Gearbox nor Apogee asked Prince about his intellectual property. And according to the document, the files for the music within Duke Nukem 3D World Tour actually contain text specifically stating that Prince owns the copyright to the music and has reserved all rights, meaning that likely Gearbox simply copied the music over without even looking at it. Prince notified Pitchford that Gearbox would need to pay him royalties on his music if they wanted to use it, to which Pitchford responded that he would be, quote, taken care of. And while apparently Pitchford strung Prince along, no money was ever paid to him, and Gearbox began distributing the game while knowingly still including the copyrighted music. Once Prince realized Gearbox had no intention of actually paying him, he advised them that they could either pony up according to the terms of the original license, which would likely be a substantial amount of money at $1 per unit sold, or remove the music from the game. Naturally, Randy Pitchford chose to do nothing. And then, from there, it outlines why Valve is being brought into the lawsuit, which essentially boils down to this. Prince alleges that they violated DMCA safe harbor. Now, the reason for this is Prince filed a DMCA takedown notice to Valve in January of 2018, which was mailed to them and delivered on February 8th, 2018. And as I managed to purchase the game yesterday, I think it's safe to say that they ignored the takedown notice and have not taken the game down from their storefront. And that was the basic core bits of information surrounding the lawsuit. And I have to say, it sounds like Bobby Prince spent a couple of years trying to get this resolved with Gearbox before he resorted to legal action, and I think he likely has a very strong case against Randy Pitchford and Gearbox. Of course, there could be other factors that we're not aware of right now, but this document doesn't strike me as a man being bitter or spiteful, just someone who's protecting what's his and is requiring compensation for Pitchford and Gearbox, flagrantly ignoring the fact that they do not own the copyright to the music in the game, nor do they have a license for its use. Now, as I said, a lot of people were asking why Valve was being drug into this, and yeah, it's because they likely violated safe harbor. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, the DMCA contains within it not only provisions for fair use, but provisions for safe harbor. And safe harbor is what allows sites like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and even Steam to function without being sued into oblivion. It is because they are a platform that, the law assumes, they hold no direct control over a great amount of the content that is being published on their sites. The way safe harbor works is, say I produce or upload a video that contains someone else's copyrighted work. The owner of that copyright doesn't like that and decides to sue. Well, due to safe harbor provision, the platform the content was uploaded to holds no liability over that content, meaning they can only go after me and not YouTube. Of course, along with that, the DMCA requires takedown systems to be in place, which allows the copyright holder to notify the platform that the content in question is infringing, and the platform is then required to take the content down. Now, many platforms will review the claim, and if it's painfully obvious that there's no infringement being made or that the content is beyond a shadow of a doubt fair use, they will refuse to take the content down. Now, that does a couple of things when they refuse, because remember, even if the content is likely fair use, the copyright holder can still take the matter to court. And if a platform refuses to take the content down per the DMCA takedown notice, they're waiving their safe harbor provision and are essentially accepting liability in that particular case. Some people will probably ask why the guy didn't use the web form. Well, it sounds like, judging from the fact that he has a delivery date, he sent the notice via certified mail in order to have the mail service require a signature upon receipt, so there wouldn't be any way for them to claim that they never received the notice or that there was an issue with the website or something like that. It sounds like the guy was dotting all his I's and crossing all his T's, and you really can't fault him for that. And as Valve has now made themselves potentially liable in the Duke Nukem 3D issue, they're getting sued right alongside Gearbox. Now, it's possible that it wasn't an appropriate takedown notice. It's possible that he just notified them of his copyright but didn't fill out the appropriate information for a takedown notice. I suppose only time will tell in that regard. Regardless, this all strikes me as completely unsurprising behavior on the part of Randy Pitchford and Gearbox, and if everything Prince alleges is true, I hope he nails them to the wall for it. And if Valve did ignore a proper DMCA takedown notice strictly because it was a larger publisher tied to the game, well, then they deserve everything that would be coming to them if that is the case. But that's all I have on this matter for the moment. It will likely be at least a month, if not several months, before we see any motion in this lawsuit, as I believe they have 21 days to respond. In the meantime, I have a huge backlog of topics that need covering, so stay tuned and hopefully you can expect many more videos coming from me in the coming days. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and please remember to share these videos on Twitter and Facebook. It really does make a huge difference. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.